So this is an article about Florida, and I tried to put this article out or this video out earlier, and apparently I didn't do it correctly. So I'm gonna go read through this. It's not a very long article. So it says Florida lawyers offering free living wills to teachers returning to school during the pandemic, and this is by Gwen Aviles. And this is out of NBC News, and this is a grim situation. I never thought we would come to this. So you see a woman pictured here who I presume is a teacher, and her picket sign or her protest is "I can't teach from the grave," and that is really truth telling. It's very sad that we've come to this. I want you to see this is very, very sad, and any other school districts have probably already seen this, or they know that they have some of the same concerns in terms of opening schools. And so this was put out July 24th, 2020. And so a number of Florida lawyers are offering free or discounted living wills for teachers who may be required to return to the classroom this school year. So I have read a story a few weeks about three Arizona teachers who had gone back to school to work on a project, and this was said by a Charles Gallagher, whose St. Petersburg law firm Gallagher and Associates is among those offering teachers free living wills. All three had contracted the COVID-19 and one died. Gallagher said that he was taken aback by the story, and he wasn't the only one, as advocates are now warning about the risk of sending teachers and children back to school prematurely. Yet the question of when schools should reopen remains a divisive one, particularly in Florida, where the state's largest teachers union in the state is suing Governor Ron DeSantis over the administration's push to fully reopen public schools next month. Despite the fact that coronavirus cases have skyrocketed in the state, Gallagher said that he saw a picture of a sign that read "Teacher supplies books, crayons, and wills" at a recent protest, and although its message was morbid, he felt compelled to assist educators, particularly the Terry Schiavo case polarized his St. Petersburg community and the nation. Schiavo's parents and husband disagreed over what Schiavo, who was left in a persistent vegetative state after she suffered a cardiac arrest in 1990, who have wanted for her care, as there was no living will making the determination for them. After years of publicized legal challenges, Schiavo died following the removal of her feeding tube in 2005. So since advertising the free living wills, a document that provides legal instructions for the person's choice of medical care should they be unable to communicate them directly to the doctor themselves, he has received inquiries from some 600 teachers and other school employees. So I heard from one teacher who said she's contemplating just quitting her job altogether to protect herself. Gallagher said, "It's heartbreaking that people have to give up their professions they love because of safety concerns." So lawyers like Gallagher, Jen Englert, the managing partner and founder of the Orlando Law Group, which is partnering with a local radio station to give teachers access to free living wills, have long been advocating for people to get their estate affairs in order. So we decided to offer these services because teachers were actually coming to us asking us for help, Englert said. We'd already done discounted wills for the first responders and medical professionals throughout the pandemic, but it hadn't occurred to us to do teachers until they had came to us. So we just wanted to help in the best way that we knew how. So, according to Engler, 800 people, most of them whom were Central Florida area residents, have reached out to the 2-day period for help. And so I think the coronavirus has made people realize that you can't take it for granted that you'll have a spouse, parent, or somebody else be able to communicate your desires for your care, especially since the coronavirus calls for people to be isolated in hospitals, England said. People don't want to think about their death, but the coronavirus highlights the importance of estate planning. So Robert Allen, a criminal justice and family law lawyer based in Pensacola, Florida, said that he also decided to offer discounts on living wills because he considers teachers to be first responders. So they're going to be the ones that go in risking their health, Allen said, adding that most important documents teachers should get in order are the power of attorney, a document that appoints someone to act on the person's behalf in real estate, business, and other finance matters, and an advance health care directive or a living will. Florida Education Commissioner Richard Corcoran, who is also being sued by the Florida Education Association, issued the emergency order this month in which he said all public schools must open at the beginning of the academic school year, as reopening schools is not just important for students' academic and social growth, but it is also crucial to Florida hitting its full economic stride. So the Center for Disease Control and Prevention released guidelines for school reopenings Thursday, which emphasized students getting back in the classroom. So the guidance states that children appear to be lower at risk for contracting COVID compared to adults, who make up 95% of the reported cases. According to the CDC, less than 7% of the reported COVID-19 cases and less than 0.1% of the COVID-19 related deaths were among children, teens less than 18 years of age as of July 21st. And when children do contract the virus or coronavirus, as they say, they generally have less serious illness, the CDC says. So, like adults, children with underlying medical conditions are at increased risk, or that they're at increased risk of severe illness from COVID-19. So the CDC has also recorded more than 180 cases of illnesses from COVID-19 in terms of multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. MIS is what it's called, MIS-C, a rare but potentially deadly condition linked to COVID-19 in kids and in children from March through May. So 2% of the children diagnosed with the MIS-C during the period died, per CDC. So as for the extent to which children under the age of 10 spread COVID-19, Dr. Deborah Birx, the White House Coronavirus Task Force coordinator, told NBC Today's show it is still an open question that needs to be studied in the United States. Basically, what it's saying is they really don't have all the answer because everything is new still. And by them prematurely opening the schools, the concern is that more people will die, including children and staff, teachers, unnecessary death. And just like they prematurely open up restaurants and bars and some of the retail stores, some of these places where they're poorly ventilated, is how the numbers have skyrocketed in terms of what we have today in Florida. The three New Yorks Deborah Birx stated was Florida, Texas, and California. So, as I recall, and from what I know, is when you're in these classrooms, it is sometimes the school buildings are old. They've been around for a long time. They're poorly lit or poorly ventilated. There are main control boxes that operate the heating and cooling systems in the main offices, sometimes offices that are in like a downtown or a central office for the schools, and so they can be poorly ventilated, and you can have large numbers of kids if teachers are out at the last minute or they call in sick, because everybody has to split up classrooms in terms of teachers having to sparse out what kids they're going to take. And then that will also grow your numbers in the classroom, even if you're trying to stagger the numbers or stagger the hours. It can make it problematic, and you don't know what environments the kids are coming from. The Some of the kids' parents are essential workers, but their parents are also exposed to a lot of different people who they don't know if they could come in contact with the virus or if they're sick. Some people could be asymptomatic. There's so many questions as to the worries of how this could go. So it says, although the CDC says that schools need to coordinate a plan, it says, and be prepared to curtail the spread of the COVID-19. Some believe it will be best for schools, particularly in those Florida regions, which have surpassed 400,000 total coronavirus cases on Friday, to remain closed. So it says in this line, we certainly know from other studies that children under the age of 10 do get infected. So kids that are under the age of 10 do get infected with this virus, and it is just unclear how rapidly they spread the virus. And this is from Dr. Burks from the coronavirus task. And so, so she is basically saying that they don't know how fast it can spread. So it is possible for kids that are under the age of 10 to contract this virus and to spread it. They just don't know how fast it could spread. And if you think about flus and colds and other things that kids can catch in the classrooms, you know, this virus has really ravaged a lot of communities. Um, there were problems before this virus, this pandemic happened, and this is the concern that people are having, that these are most vulnerable communities and most vulnerable people that lives are at stake here. And so now we have teachers, and which are usually underpaid, and some schools are underfunded, and now you're asking them to go back to these schools, which could put these lives of these children and these teachers at risk. And some teachers have health issues, some children have health issues prior to coming back in an environment like this. And so this is a very scary situation altogether. So you have to weigh the opportunity cost. Opening schools means sick and dead children, and delaying opening means inconvenience as well. So Gallagher said, so there is just no logic behind the first option. And so this is very scary. So as of the numbers of cases in Florida, and I was looking it up, hmm, so it comes right up 402,312 total confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Florida. And so the number of Florida coronavirus cases has surpassed 400,000, and that is true. And so I just wanted you to know, so it wasn't something that it looked like I was making it up. And this is basically the number. Um, so that is the fear, that is the problem in terms of this deadly disease. And I'm going to say deadly, and that's the scary thing, and that is the reason why it has been hotly debated time and time again whether it is safe to open schools. And so I just want you to look at this because this is sad because teachers are having to choose life and death situations over whether they're going to go back to work and jobs that they wanted to do, and now they're going to have to make some hard choices to like switch jobs or change professions because they know that they could be, whether they have a health issue that prevents them from going back to a situation that could be possibly life and death, or a situation where maybe they're a caregiver of family at home, and they need to be there, or they just don't feel safe. You know, a lot of people are having to choose, make these hard choices as to whether they should go back to these professions. And this is the big problem that we're going to have is already here in Los Angeles. I know that they were saying they were going to keep schools closed um, because they probably have seen this. I believe Texas has even said they wanted to keep their schools closed. There were some options on the table, and then there were this, and also with some of these states, they were told that they would lose funding. And if you look at the situation, you're basically asking people to risk their lives, to losing their lives. They may not even last long enough to teach a whole full school year. So they're going to lose a lot of teachers because of this. So there's not only a loss of life just in general, but a loss of these professions that are going to fade off. A lot of people are going to choose not to do these types of jobs because they don't feel safe. And so there's so many things that are going on, and it's so sad. And so people are thinking in the back of their mind, should I do this? Or should I just leave this alone? Should I go somewhere elsewhere? This is just not a safe situation whatsoever. So anyway, I'm going to read this title and I'm going to let this video go. This is very scary, but this is what this has come to. I never thought it would, but Florida lawyers offering free living wills to teachers returning to school during the pandemic. And so this right here shows you that we are at such a grim situation here. And the three New Yorks, once again, are Florida, Texas, and California, because the numbers are so high of people who are dying of this. And some places that didn't have restrictions are now starting to turn around and have restrictions on whether you are patronized in these businesses for not wearing a mask. You still do have some people who are very resisting of these orders, but the numbers prove that it's so unsafe out there to just go without a mask. In some situations, restaurants, sitting in restaurants, in airplanes, and certain establishments are starting to, that were opened, are reclosing because the numbers have gone so high of people that are contracting the virus, and the hospitals are pretty much filled up with a lot of people. And so I'm going to let this video go. Like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for listening. But this is a sad, sad time that we're living in right now. So I would say that they opened things up too soon. They didn't know enough about this disease. They learned more information as they went. And when they did learn, it was too little too late. We probably earlier on, if we hadn't had masks, if we had kept things closed a little longer, there would be less loss of life. Unfortunately, people are dying, and then there are some people that are contracting it, and if they don't die, they have like other illnesses that come along with it. And so these are the grim realities of this disease. And so like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for listening.